G'day there folks, and welcome to some more stories from Reddit. As always, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe and all that stuff, and let's get straight into the stories. Alrighty, kicking things off on Am I the A-hole, this one was written by user Greatest Throwman, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for not wanting to walk her down the aisle or lie in a speech? I, 41 male, have 2 kids with my ex-wife, 42. A son, John, 22, and a daughter, Sally, 20. I'm remarried to my wife, 28. I'm very close with my kids. My son is engaged to Abby. She seems nice, but has been a bit pushy trying to create relationships with me and my wife, though she's also awkward with her. Abby isn't close to her family. She told us many stories why, and while some of her complaints don't seem awful, it's not my place to judge, and I didn't live it, so I can't know anyway. We've tried to be welcoming, but Abby has forced her way into some family traditions where she wouldn't have been invited, and some where no one outside of specific family would have. She's been calling Sally sis since they were only dating a few months, has an odd sister-mother-in-law thing she does with my wife, and the one I'm not a fan of wants me to be like a father to her, not because we've clicked or anything. We're very different people, not saying that in a bad way, just saying it's not based on how we get along or anything. My kids and I have a tradition where they come over and that we have a private catch-up in my office and study before they leave, which is now even more important to them because while they both get along well with my wife, they don't want to have personal conversations around her yet. Abby asked if we could talk, and after I explained the tradition, John later asked that I do it, saying she'd never had a caring conversation with her dad. We compromised that I didn't include her in the tradition, but do join the two of them for coffee and let her talk. Then she started calling me dad. They weren't even engaged yet. John pulled me aside and begged me to give her that, laid this whole thing on me about me always being the dad she always wanted right in front of her, and she just wanted that. Told me she cried watching me and Sally together. She still gives me random hugs. I'm a lucky dad. I didn't like it, but I do feel bad, so fine, I gave her that. She wants me to walk her down the aisle and the father-daughter dance. I don't want to walk her down, and I walk with a cane, so dancing is hard. At my own wedding, I only danced twice. John is begging for me to do one, preferably the aisle. They came over Sunday, and John and I were talking. I thought to address it when Abby walked in without knocking, asking if he'd told me yet. I asked what. John said she wanted me to say something about having a second daughter now in my speech and how I loved her. I just looked at him. She asked if I'd do the walk and dance for Sally. I said of course. She yelled, "She's my daughter too," and I said it will never be the same. Sally is my actual daughter. I tried to explain that I'd talk about her being a happy addition to the family, and I love how happy she makes Jack, which I thought was a good compromise, but she started crying. John apologized and they left, but he called me when they were home, nearly begging me to. Am I the a-hole because I won't lie and say I love her or she's my daughter? Nah man, that's such a big responsibility, and it's clear that Opie is uncomfortable with taking it on, and rightly so. She should not expect this of anyone. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole, you have your boundaries. Abby sounds like she's developed this fantasy involving you and your family. That can't be healthy. And yelling at you? You will tell people you love me? You will tell people I'm your second daughter? You will have a good time at my wedding? Red flags. Opie replies, John told me she really wants to be a part of the family, but she started so quickly, I wonder how much is us versus the idea of us. I've been told she immediately was obsessed with the relationship my kids and I have. The yelling, I was more concerned for John than upset, honestly. She seemed not okay right then. Not the a-hole. Abby can't force the relationship she missed out on as she was growing up, and that's what she's trying to do. Do not cave to her. Opie says, John is the one it's hard not to cave with, but she just makes it hard to hold normal conversation because she loves to slide a dad in there or get too personal. You lost me at my wife, 28. It's a little odd that you're so hung up on these traditions and a rigid family dynamic, but you married someone who was only 6 years older than your son. Not the a-hole. There were obviously several red flags with Abby which John has chosen to ignore. However, it's unfair of him to expect that you and the rest of your family should be required to cater to her irrational whims and behavior. Abby is obviously manipulative, likes being the center of attention, and feels entitled to have everything her way. The only way to deal with people like her is to set boundaries and stick to them. Otherwise, Abby will walk all over you and your family. Opie updates 1.5 months later. I had planned on writing this sooner, but life got in the way in a couple of really good ways. But people were helpful and asked for updates, and I have a surprise free day, so here it goes. Mother's Day, my kids and their partners go to visit my ex-wife. So it turns out my ex-wife and Abby are a lot closer than I realised. She calls her mum, which is part of where this comes from. Also, apparently my ex has been egging it on. On Mother's Day, they were talking about the wedding, and I guess whenever Abby referred to me, it was as Dad. My son apparently told her to let it go, which led to yelling. Abby about deserving to be my daughter. Well, ex is telling her that she's right. Son telling her that I am trying and she should be realistic about things. Sally telling her I only had one daughter, which was apparently a response to Abby saying to her that as my daughters, they should be united. According to my son, Abby was crying. According to Sally, she was crying and yelling and kicked something before going to her room. And Sally told me she went off on her mum, but will not elaborate, so I don't know what was actually said. But knowing Sally, woo boy. Around 2 a.m, I got a text from Sally's partner's phone saying, Abby really is great. She hasn't been perfect, but you should give her a chance and you'll learn to love her. I saw it when I woke up. I tried to text her back but was blocked. So I called Sally, but they were driving. They stopped by my place later that day because I'm on the way, and my daughter prefers my liquor and cooking, and they told me about the night before. At the end, I asked to speak to her partner alone. I asked if I'd done something to upset her. She was confused, and I told her I was blocked. She said I wasn't, but checked her phone and I was, and I said it was after her message, and she asked what message. I showed her. It was not on her phone anymore. At that point, we brought in Sally and caught her up. Neither of them were happy. A couple of days later, John and Abby dropped by unannounced. Not something we really do in this family, but okay, fine. I had mad salmon. Does not take long to cook. I cook 2 more, wife serves while I make drinks. The entire night was Abby trying to bring up the wedding, John trying to change the subject, and Abby not allowing that. We talk logistics because I'm helping them get some good deals through some professional contacts I have, when finally she just says, so I was talking to Mum. She said that you can walk me down the aisle and she'll do the dance, or you can dance and she'll walk. It's your call, but you need to choose soon. I reiterated that I could not dance. She tried arguing that I had danced a little at my wedding, but I made it clear that it's different, and did not feel comfortable walking her. She got upset and said, Mum loves me, why can't you? I felt bad but couldn't lie. I pointed out that she had John who loved her, my ex-wife, friends. She had people who loved her. She said, but other than ex-wife, those aren't my parents. I said, neither am I. She was very emotional, so my wife and I gave them a few minutes. My son and I were alone later. He looked exhausted. He said the problem was that after Mother's Day, Abby had called Sally and kept saying they're both my daughters, that I did not get to be close with one but not both, and that it was them against me. But at that one, Sally cried havoc and let slip the dogs of war. Things were said. Grievances were aired. John had to hang up before it got worse, but I guess Abby was shaken, but there was a new problem. Abby had decided in her head that I did not mean what I'd been saying and was just doing it for Sally. He told me he would handle it. Ron Howard? He did not. So now I get text messages from Abby every couple of days acting like we have a secret relationship Sally doesn't know about. She even called herself my secret daughter and lolled. She invited my wife to lunch, saying 2 out of 3 of his girls going out. She's even started using the pressure of showing up at events like a recent barbecue to play a certain image. She hugs me more and holds it, wants to do pictures with just me or my wife and I, but always a few with just me to post with captions I do not like. My wife is getting especially annoyed because of how she is with her. I guess Abby surprised her with Father's Day plans for me that had to be shut down. As it is, she's still inserted herself into the day. But she has a soft spot for her, and when Abby gets emotional, she caves. My wife is a sweetheart. I asked him if he's upset with me, and he said no, he just wished it was different. He said we're good, but he's worried he and Sally aren't, which is when I took the advice of some people and suggested premarital counselling. He said he would talk about it. Abby is insisting Sally go to her fitting. That shop should pay-per-view that potential Royal Rumble because Sally is not holding her feelings back anymore. I told them Sally loves him and I'll talk to her, but for now, it's stressful all around. Abby driving my wife crazy with her ideas for what my girls should be doing, driving me crazy with dad-daughter content, drove Sally to the edge, and oh yeah, last night sent me an email with 3 styles of father-daughter dances and song options, so I'm not feeling any more respected or heard than before. The 6 of us have barely been in the same room in order to let things calm down since Father's Day, which was great until it was a crap show. Sorry this is so long. With all the craziness, this is still the abridged version. We are supposed to meet Friday. Sally's partner and I have a bet going about how bad it will go, so onward and upward. I hope your father's had a less dramatic day than I did, and by any chance, does anyone know exactly how bad of a crime I need to commit to enter witness protection? Just curious. Let's see what the comments have to say. Did you tell your son about the fake message from Sally's partner and the blocking? I don't know that you ever confirmed that Abby did it, but that is another level of crazy just inserting herself into your life. Opie says, I do not think confirmation is possible, but her phone was where Abby would have been able to get it, according to Sally. Sally asked to be the one to tell him. This is crazy, but with everything going on, job stuff, great news, family stuff, best news, wedding stuff, I try to watch my drinking, and the family exploding a bit at Father's Day, I honestly forgot to ask her what happened. I have to call her later. It's funny until you sit down and write everything out. You don't realize how much there is. It just feels like one thing after another. This girl is one psychotically obsessive step removed from a bunny boiling. It is not normal, nor is it healthy. You need to talk with your son, now. Just imagine what it will be like when they're married. But no, you're not the a-hole, and you're handling it as best you can. I'm so sorry you're stuck with this drama. Not the a-hole. You mentioned in another comment your wife is pregnant. Be prepared for Abby to go into overdrive, especially if it's another girl. Her level of obsession is very concerning. If you can't convince your wife to step back now, give it about 5 or 6 months when Abby has taken over the baby shower, picked out the nursery, posted the ultrasounds online, insists on being in the delivery room, and gives your wife a full belly grope every 3.8 minutes during visits. Revisit the conversation then. Opie replies, my daughter said the same thing about the baby coming. Your second paragraph sounds like hell. Thankfully, my wife has a close circle of friends for those things, but I'm sure you're right that Abby will try to insert herself in our pregnancy journey like she did my Father's Day. I can't believe your son is dumb enough to still want to marry this walking red flag. At this point, you need to have a talk with your son. Tell him that his fiancée is making you, your wife, and his sister extremely uncomfortable, and that you have serious concerns about her emotional stability because of her inability to accept boundaries and being told no. I would also tell him that if she doesn't back off ASAP, you will make your boundaries physical and not attend events she's at or invite her to your events. Personally, I'd tell my son I won't attend the wedding because I can't support him marrying someone so toxic, but that my door is open to help him escape her once he's ready. I know not everyone could or would do that, but I would if it was one of my kids. And witness protection is for witnesses of big crimes, not really those who commit them. You'd be better off just faking your death and running, lol. Opie replies, the shame is we used to sort of like her, my daughter, my wife and myself. Early on she was interesting. Diverse interests, she has travelled a lot for her age. She and I even have overlap in musical taste. The problem was when she decided she wanted this, her personality changed and she started getting pushy, changing subjects to what she wanted if there were subjects she liked. It was like everything was put on hold until we acquiesced, which we haven't, so it's not gone on. You make a good point about witness protection, plus I've been meaning to take up location tracker-free boating and scuba diving in sharky waters. Alrighty, moving on to another update, 3.5 months later. I've gotten requests for updates on my situation, and as I enjoy a refreshing mojito and my wife her no-hito, life feels good and the perfect time to amuse the world with my pain and familial drama. Plus, a cousin of mine who apparently reads these and knows my situation gave me the convincing argument of, dude, you can't keep people hanging. And how can I argue with that airtight argument? I apologize for how long this is. A lot has happened. My wife's pregnancy is going well. Keeping her as stress-free and pampered as possible has been my focus. It's such a different experience this time, both because of how much more involved I can be and how much better a relationship I have with my wife than I had with my ex. My daughter Sally has been great. Even her partner has been great, helping with the nursery or driving her around when I can't. My wife doesn't know because it's a surprise, but my son has been building a crib for the baby, modeled after the one I built for him and his sister, to show my wife his support. My son is a good man, and he is still in there. He just has a soft spot for Abby, which I guess gets us to the part of the movie where Godzilla shows up and starts busting up buildings. So I called a family meeting with my kids to talk about the situation. I told John his sister was only doing wedding activities she wanted to, and that the guilting requests needed to stop, that this was hurting his relationship with his sister. Sally was happy I said it, so she did not have to yet again. I told him if he did not stop her from messaging me, I would block her with a bluntly honest explanation why. We got a lot out. John seemed to understand, but then a few days later they insisted on coming to talk. Sally and I decided we would get everything out. So all of us ate at our place. Abby started in immediately about baby shower stuff, and I told her that's the kind of thing we wanted to talk about. I told her that I understood she's been trying to fill a hole that she has, that she thought she was getting a father, a second mother. She calls my ex-wife Mum, apparently, and a sister. I told her it was still possible, but that she needed to start listening to us. I told her that for the sake of family, we would give her a fresh start if she agreed that moving forward she would respect our boundaries. My daughter did not love this idea, but loves her brother and was willing to try. Abby tried to say that since we were starting over, we could define what the relationship would be and just be family. We told her we were not ready for that it needs to happen organically. She got mad that I'm closer with my daughter's partner, which is true, but we just get along, and that she deserved it for trying so hard. My daughter said something about trying things we actually want. She ran to our bathroom, he ran after her. After a while, I checked on him. I could hear her repeating, "This is not what I wanted." My wife, daughter, and her partner went out to the patio to give them privacy and salvage the night. After a bit, I got a text saying they'd just left. I checked in with him the next day, and he said they talked more at home, and she understood. For a couple of weeks, things were good. The text stopped, except the occasional wedding question, since it was getting closer. She stopped pushing herself on my wife and Sally, and we thought was involving us less in the wedding planning out of respect, since as it was, they only got the venue at the rate they did because of my professional connections, and they know I was willing to help, but not interested in helping plan, even if I am good at event planning. But then I got a call from the venue telling me the card I used had been declined. Now this is a specific card I use for big purchases because of the miles, so I knew it had a high limit. That was how I learned that they'd changed dates by 2 months, despite being informed I would still be out much of the money because it was too close to the date. I was furious. I mean, I've been lucky in life financially, but I'm not blow-off deposits like nothing wealthy. Called my son, said he needed to get his ass to the house, just him, and they both came. When they arrived, I opened the door. She actually started with, "Dad." I think I just replied, "You've got to be effing kidding me," and walked toward the table. Abby had the nerve to ask where dinner was. My response was not polite, as I made it clear that was not why they were here. I hoped my son would not lie to me, so I asked what was going on with the venue. She started going into wedding details, but my son interrupted to tell me they postponed because my ex-wife was unavailable because of a surgery, and he had not told me because he was putting money together to pay the lost money himself, and he just reached out to guests to let them know. And that is when Abby's mouth opened. "We have extra time to work on our dance." Now, during this time, my wife came home, and I was walking her toward the bedroom when Abby said that. My pregnant wife with me, I said calmly, "I have different feelings about that and will elaborate further shortly," or something like that. Then I laid my wife down and got her water, turned on her symphonic covers of popular songs, and walked back to the table and said something like, "You are out of your effing mind. Have you even been listening?" I made it clear I was done with this nonsense. We all were, and kind of lost it. asking she did not hear us last time because her head was up her ass. She was stunned silent. What a beautiful sound. And looked at me while I, admittedly with little filter, explained what Sally and I thought of our time with her and her attempts to force us to love her without even getting to know us. She started crying and stood up and shouted, "Then what was this even for?" John asked what she meant, if she meant them, and he started to freak out. She was frantic and said she meant delaying the wedding, because, and I'm pouring another drink to write this, it was a ploy. My ex-wife and her decided if I had more time, I would come around. Apparently my ex told her not to worry about the money because, quote, I am loaded. She's always been bitter I make so much more than I did when we were married, as if that is out of spite rather than my career arc. I think she did that on purpose, frankly. But she not only told me that lie, she and my ex told John as well. He was distraught, repeating, "You lied to me," as she tried to spin it, but he was letting it out, about how much he has defended her and covered for her, and she lied to him too. She was defensive and blamed my ex for telling her things and me for being stubborn. She yelled, "Why can't I just effing call him Dad?" And finally, after so long, I heard John respond, "Because he's not your frickin' dad." She started crying, and something about his being the one that told her that she could call me that, and he said he told her she might be able to eventually, but he told her again and again to slow down. She started sobbing and went to sit on her chair but missed and fell on the floor. Appreciating physical humor to break the tension, I immediately chuckled and hid my mouth behind my drink. This all led to a lot of sobbing. I said I needed to check on my wife, and as I walked out she was just repeating, "I just want him to be my dad too." I came out and he was walking her to the door and apologized. I said not to. They left. He came over a few days later and said they had a long talk at home. He even asked her if she would have dated him if there was never a chance of being in the family. He believed her when she said yes, but she admitted I was a big draw as well. I was the kind of dad she always wanted. My relationship with Sally is what she always wanted, and the way she said it gave John doubts that she loves him for him. I talked about marriage counseling, how his mother and I tried it, and while it did not save us, it provided clarity and an impartial voice. I pointed out they both like coming to me, but I cannot be impartial, and if they are trying, then they need to do it for real. Abby texted asking if I was the one who suggested therapy. I responded with, "Does it matter if John wants to?" She asked why is it so bad she wants to know what I think, and I just said John is the man whose opinion should matter most to her. They fought due to the text. She agreed to the cancelling and the wedding has been postponed. I may have done a dance. So they're in cancelling. He said she struggles, but I obviously do not know details. She's pressing for me and Sally to go to a session with her. Sally told her she did not want to hear Sally unfiltered, and I'm not interested. Abby has been leaving Sally alone. She stopped texting me except for the occasional general question, which includes some attempt to go deeper. My wife still occasionally spends time with her because she's very into her pregnancy, more so than I like, but it is my wife's call. So that's where we are. Sorry it was so long, but alcohol makes for a poor editor. Yeah, and poor sentence structure too. Man, that was hard to read at some points. Anyway, it looks like finally the message has gotten through Abby's thick skull there. Okay, now we have a new update, 1.5 months later. I was told I should do updates here. People have been asking me to, and to get into what went down on Father's Day and at their mother's house. I've been extremely busy these last few months, but I'm enjoying my temporary unemployment and thought of this account because of recent Thanksgiving drama. I'll do an update and then share what happened earlier. Oh, and to whoever made the joke that Abby finally got me to dance, that made me laugh. I shared that with the family. My time has been largely caring for my wife. I tend to dote, I know. We're having a boy. We are really excited, though neither of us really had gender preference. I've raised both and both experiences were wonderful. Now we're discussing names, who we're going to honor. I thought everything had been quiet, but recently found my wife crying and found out I was wrong. Given how busy I've been with work, and my wife knowing I would be free again once we got into this month, my wife has kept this to herself. Apparently Abby has been pushing for one Thanksgiving this year. Things have been quiet with Abby. My son said the wedding blowing up woke her up, and that therapy had been helping. But then this. My understanding is that while John has been talking less with his mother because of what happened, Abby did the opposite. From my wife's telling, Abby dropped by one day with my ex-wife. My wife intensely dislikes my ex-wife because of lies she spread about my first marriage ending due to infidelity with her, despite there being no infidelity and the linear nature of time making it impossible for us to have slept together back then. Before anyone asks, my ex-wife does not actually think there was infidelity. I would get into that, but I'm sure I would sound biased. Anyway, so my wife looked at our camera app, saw who it was, and called my daughter. Apparently the two of them were keeping things from me because I was working 18-hour days and they did not want me dealing with anything else. I wish they had not done that, but I appreciate the thought. I'm really lucky to have such caring people around me. My daughter called her mum and said something that made them leave in a hurry. She will not tell me what, but she smiles when I ask. I called John, but he was dealing with some hard work news, so I just was there for him and left the other alone. The next day, Abby came back, alone this time. My wife saw it was her and asked her what she wanted through the door. Abby said to apologize. My wife let her in. She's too nice. And after a nice talk, Abby asked about the whole family getting together for Thanksgiving. My wife said, of course. She assumed as much. A couple of days later in our group chat, we were discussing details, who brings what, and Abby asks what else is needed. I say John already committed, and she asked what about my ex-wife, what should she bring? In the time I've known Abby, she's never made an intentional joke that funny, so I asked what she was talking about, and she mentioned the whole family comment, and my daughter and I both asked what made her think we counted her as family. She actually replied, she is my family. I don't have a dad who wants me, just a mum, and my mum deserves to be with family on Thanksgiving. Sally replied, well, we'll miss you and John then. Abby asks, how can she say that? Sally asks, how can she be so stupid? John says not to call her stupid, and I say that's fair, but there's no real way she thought my wife thought she meant my ex-wife. At this point, my wife had filled me in. And then, this is so stupid, she uses my son's phone to add my ex-friggin' wife to the group chat. She then thanks us for the invitation and asks what she can bring. As I was typing, my daughter beats me to it and asks what she thinks she's doing. She knows she's not welcome, but says it less politely. My wife types, you could not have thought she was included when I said family. Abby responded that she was not coming as my family, but as hers. Sally let her mum have it. She already is not talking to her much and said if my ex-wife is there, then she is not. I mentioned there was never a chance X was going to come and said I understand Abby and John wanting to go to their mum's house so she's not alone. John typed, plans not definite, we'll let you know. He has since told me that he's not going to his mum's place, but wanted to tell Abby alone first. All I can think about is the comment about not having a dad who wants her, because it means she's still thinking about me as a dad, I believe. Just a negligent one. I mentioned that to my son, and he said he noticed it too, and had brought it up at therapy, because family is such a frequent topic, though I obviously do not know details. Well, I thought this would be brief, but that was a lot. I'll get into the crazy stories later if there are people seeing this who want me to. I do not know how posting from here works in terms of anyone seeing it, but this has been good to get out. One comment says, someone needs to explain sunk cost fallacy to John. I genuinely cannot believe he's still with her after the sheer volume of times she has disrespected him, his boundaries, and your family. Maybe this was back in an earlier post, but has anyone really taken the time to reason with him that there are other women out there, and he deserves so much better than this kind of relationship? Opie replies, I had a talk when this started, so did his sister. After the blow-up of the wedding, his sister and I took him out for a game and some time to really talk after. That was when he apparently demanded counselling. I'm happy that for now marriage is on hold at least. He is seeing her a bit more honestly, but is still too optimistic in my view. Several comments say Opie needs to let his wife know not to let Abby in when he's not home. I have asked my wife to never let her in if I'm not there after last time. Well, actually, I'd already asked her, but after the last incident, my wife has agreed. You are exactly correct that she takes advantage of my wife's kindness. Though once our boy is here, I think she'll be very protective and will hold strong. I have told John that Abby will not be holding our baby, at least for the foreseeable future. Opie and his daughter need to have a serious talk with his son about Abby. His sister and I had a serious conversation with him a little after everything blew up. It seems to be what inspired both his demand for cancelling and putting the marriage on hold. He's better about seeing her, honestly. His sister said something about Abby having similarities to their mother, which would have been fighting words from anyone else, and I saw the temper that rarely comes out, but then he listened because she clearly put thought into it. I never thought about it. I'm proud to have kids smarter than me. I know my boy didn't come off as a genius in these posts, and fair enough in that department, but professionally he is brilliant. She laid her reasoning out in excruciating detail. He listened, though because she was not enjoying it at all, it was sincere. Something seemed to have clicked because since that talk, he has been different with her. I just am not getting my hopes up. Another comment says, when two crazies are feeding off each other's crazy, they can start thinking anything is possible. I have a feeling that even if your son leaves her, she's not going to go away peacefully. Her and your ex sound like peas in a pod, unfortunately. And Opie replies, my daughter really went at him, pointing out their similarities. She made her case well, and thankfully it shook him up. Alrighty folks, and that's the end of that story for now. Honestly, the chances of this getting worse before it gets better are pretty high in my opinion. But to be honest, I'm glad that's over. The longer that went, the more insufferable everyone in the story became, not just Abby and the ex. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down below. Anyway, we're going to leave that one there and go to the next story. Alrighty, we're staying on Am I the A-hole? This one was written by user Walls Windows, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for still going to my sister's wedding after my husband cancelled my plane ticket? Here's the situation. My husband, 36, and I, 30, have 3 kids, 2, 4, and 7. I'm a stay-at-home mum, full-time, and I take care of the kids while my husband works full-time. My sister's wedding was last week. We live hours away, which is an issue for my husband. When we first got the invite, he told me that he wasn't going, that he'll stay for the kids, and suggested I do the same. Since the wedding doesn't allow kids, and my husband doesn't want to hire a babysitter after the one we had robbed us, we'd gone back and forth on this, but I insisted on going since that's my only sister, and I want to attend what might be a once-in-a-lifetime event for her. He chuckled at my statement, then we stopped talking about it. As the wedding was approaching, he brought it up and told me to miss it and stay with the kids. I suggested that since no babysitters were allowed then, I could get my friend to stay with the kids, but he refused. I ignored him, spoke to my friend who agreed to watch the kids, and booked a ticket to travel to my sister's town in time. My husband found out and went on about how he had work and that the most logical solution is that I stay home with the kids and let him make his living. I told him that I already took care of the kids and they'll stay with my friend. Honestly, I grew impatient. The day of my flight, I dropped the kids off at my friend's place, then headed to the airport. I found out he'd cancelled my plane ticket. I was upset but still insisted on going, so I went home and got into my car and drove 4 hours to get to the town. At 5 p.m, my husband called and was freaking out on me, asking where I was. I told him I made it to my sister's town, and he blew up, saying I wasn't supposed to go, even said he cancelled my ticket to get me to stay. He demanded I return, but I said nothing until the wedding was over. He called me a horrible, neglectful mum, then had his mum scold me and accuse me of abandoning my kids. There was a huge argument that ensued when I returned home, and my husband kept on saying I was horrible to leave the kids and to ignore him like that, and do what I wanted eventually. He's giving me silent treatment as of now, and I can no longer take it. I felt guilty and did not enjoy the wedding at all. Was I wrong for still going? Info: my husband dislikes my sister if it's relevant. An update: so a lot of people on here brought up the possibility of my husband lying about the robbery that happened months ago and accusing the babysitter of stealing just so I can't hire any other babysitters. He was the one who discovered the robbery. I never saw or talked to her after he kicked her out. Upon reading the comments, I'm now suspecting that he made the whole thing up. I'm going to contact the babysitter to get the whole story from. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I'll talk to her and see if her story contradicts his in any way. I'll keep you updated. Yeah, interesting thought about the babysitter, but just baseline, his behavior is just so controlling. Just makes you think, why? Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. He's awful. It's ridiculous to suggest you missed the wedding as there were obviously childcare solutions, and to cancel the ticket is super abusive. I can't see how this doesn't cause massive damage to your relationship. He's ridiculously controlling. Opie says, "Thing is, I'd already suggested other solutions, but he was dead set on not letting me come. I ignored him because I was at my wit's end, and he wouldn't want it any other way." Horrible, neglectful mum, from the man that did everything he could to not have to parent his own kids for a weekend. Your relationship is not healthy. He is manipulating and controlling. Hopefully the comments here open your eyes, not the a-hole. Opie replies, "It's how I felt when I heard him say it. Not a new thing though, because he's called me names before, but to say that I'm a neglectful mum, that stings hard." Financial abuse? Yup. Isolating you from loved ones? Yup. Controlling behavior? Yup. Not the a-hole, and please leave the a-hole. He should be required to give you child support and alimony. You were not neglectful. Your kids were taken care of. Opie replies, "Thank you so much. The childcare arrangement issue has been making my life 10 times harder. After that babysitter robbed us, my husband decided that no babysitter is allowed into our home anymore. I disagreed because of how illogical his decision was, and now look at how much we're struggling. I'm struggling actually without outside help. Thank God for my friend. She's like a sister to me." You're not the a-hole either way, but info. Why did he have his mum berate you after he was done? You know you're not the a-hole. He's obviously a control freak, and the way you said he wants to earn his money, like it's not yours, screams financial abuse. I'm honestly feeling like this is fake, but to give you the benefit of the doubt, you really need to think hard about this situation and realize that he's setting you up so you can never leave. And since you left, if you go back home after this, he's going to make it harder for you to leave again. Opie says, "He does it all the time. I was blamed by her when the previous babysitter robbed our house. I got called names by her and my husband too. It happened 7 months ago, but it still hurts like hell." Info, do you have evidence the babysitter robbed you, apart from the missing items and your husband's testimony? It sounds like he's trying to isolate and control you. It is completely unreasonable to expect your wife to skip her only sister's wedding. Opie says, "No, I wasn't home when it happened. It was after the babysitter left that my husband discovered the robbery. We never found the stuff, but my husband said it was her, because who else could it be, and then kicked her out, even though I was the one who hired her. He told me he was the one paying her, so I shouldn't protest. That's it. It happened months ago." Yeah, bad news everywhere. Okay, on to an update. I contacted the babysitter via social media. I sent her a DM telling her who I was and mentioning the incident that happened at our home. I didn't think she'd respond given that it's been over 7 months since she left us, but I was surprised when she responded in 2 hours' time. I, again, mentioned the incident to her and asked if she could explain to me what happened. She sent me a long wall of text swearing she never took anything from our home and that my husband came home and was lashing out at her and the kids for no reason. She said that they didn't talk to him that day, but then brought up a previous interaction they both had. Then she claimed that he touched her inappropriately while he was in the kitchen with her. This caught me off guard. I asked her to expand on that, and she said she wasn't sure it was an accident or that he did it deliberately. She said he didn't say anything, but his looks made her uncomfortable. She also said she was willing to let it go till she saw that he started leaving her texts days later, demanding she respond to him. Then, the day he accused her of the robbery, he just lashed out at her, criticizing her work, and then told her to leave and not come back. She said he didn't accuse her of anything being stolen, just lashed out and told her to leave. I couldn't wrap my head around this. I just really don't know what to say. Basically, she was saying he tried to hit on her, but then said she wasn't sure it was an accident. Then he just all of a sudden came home one day and lashed out and then told her to leave. I can't make sense of this. I went to try to speak to him on that, but he kept blocking my attempts to discuss it, so I blew up. I showed him what the babysitter sent me, and he remained calm, which is completely out of character for him. He kept repeating the line, "She's lying to you," while I absolutely lost it on him. I threatened to take the kids and go stay with my friend, which what I'm going to do today after he leaves the house. Since he said that I can't do that, then I'm waiting till he's out. He kept calling me crazy to believe some kid's story over his, and insisted that I was looking to dig up dirt to start a fight. I refused to continue fighting. I just kept my distance from him. This is just horrible. I did not see this coming, and I feel like a cold wave just hit me, and I don't know what to say about this. And worst of all is I have no evidence or proof. I'm going to be taking some space from him for now till I clear my head and think of what I'm going to do going forward. One comment says, take the kids. If you have messages, screenshot everything. Screenshot what the babysitter told you. Screenshot you buying the ticket and then him cancelling it. If his mother trashed you via DMs, screenshot that too. Don't yield on this. The first step of everything is realizing something is not good. You already reached out that step. Your family will help you. Your friends will help you. Don't yield, don't give up, and good luck. Opie replies, yes, I'm too overwhelmed right now, but I'll make sure to store those messages. I already keep all his messages, including my mum's verbal attacks towards me. It's awful the way he and his mum treat me, in front of the kids no less. I'm at the end of my rope and I feel suffocated and my chest feels tight and heavy. I will need to get fresh air later on and away from the kids just so I could get my thoughts in order. Wow, yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I feel more inclined to believe the babysitter over this guy. But that's the last update so far. I'll keep an eye out on her story, but yeah, scary stuff. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down below. Anyway guys, that's it from me today. I hope you all enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.